Imagine a world without choices. Imagine you can't make your own decision. That wouldn't be a world for me. That wouldn't be a world for you. You, I see.
Tell them we're gonna be stronger. Together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Gonna be stronger together. Time we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. It is a natural right for every human being to be free. Free, so free. So the government is there to protect you and me. UIC objective is to liberate the citizens from colonial bondage, them regulation, them taxation. Rob Jamaica, we independent and stronger together.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. My name is Joseph Patterson, and tonight we're going to be talking about money. Yeah, money, very important topic, eh? But more specifically, we're going to be talking about money as it relates to political parties and the UIC more specifically. We're actually talking about your future as well, because if we fund political parties, those parties work for us. If we don't fund them, they work for somebody else. So funding a political party is really a form of investment. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So welcome and good night, JMH. Good night, Lion Rule the Jungle. Good night, Sweet ADY. I think it's probably Sweet Lady. Good night, Desmond Myrie. Good night, Mr. Harper. Good to see you all. Let me know if you can see me clearly, if I need to change anything. If you can hear me clearly, let me know as well. I'm getting a message here that says my head is cutting off, so I'm fixing the camera so my head is on. Glad you can all see me now, I hope. Yeah, so tonight we're going to be talking with the treasurer of the UIC, Miss Naika Williams. She's going to come on shortly, and she's going to share with us the finances of the UIC, which I think you should be very interested in hearing. And you're going to get a chance to ask some questions as well. So why don't we begin? In fact, I want to begin by asking you how much you know about the election laws as they surround financing of political parties. Do you know a lot about it? Do you know how the electoral system works? Do you know what the rules are? All the rules we have today were made by the two major parties. In 2018, they brought in some new laws in Jamaica about how political parties should work. And a part of those new laws include campaign financing. It's a little tricky, a bit cumbersome, and not as straightforward as the one that the UIC has in mind. So I'm going to kind of show you how their system differs from the one we're proposing. And then we're also going to talk about specifically how we spend the money you donate to the organization. We believe it's very important to have complete transparency around the finances of the organization, because that is how we build trust between you, the members, and us, your representatives. And so let's begin by watching a short video, which was done on Smile Jamaica, TVJ, where they brought in a legal counsel and the registrar of political parties to talk about the funding of political parties, or more so the funding of campaigns. There's something you should really know from the very beginning, that there are two different sets of funding. There's the funding that a party or a candidate receives throughout the year normally, and then there's the funding that comes during the period of the election cycle, when the Prime Minister calls the election to when the election campaign period ends, and when you need to report how you've been funded. I want you to pay attention to those two separate periods. In this video, they're going to talk more about the period of the election, but you should know that outside of that period, political parties and candidates may get a lot of donations, which are not under the same regulation as the campaign period. So all of this is really a bit of a smoke screen. The design of this process is to make you feel as if there's accountability in the system, but at the end of the day, there's a whole lot of loopholes which the two parties benefit from. Chief among them is the fact that regardless of the rules, they're heavily funded by the PSOJ. They receive a large chunk of their funding from the PSOJ oligarchs. These are some of the richest companies in Jamaica that gives millions and millions of dollars to the two parties so that they can effectively communicate with the Jamaican people, engage with the Jamaican people, and gain the trust of the Jamaican people. This funding effectively marginalizes any third party that comes on the scene because obviously they're not getting those funding, so they don't have the funds to go out daily, go door to door, street by street, into every nook and cranny, because it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money and time. And the typical third party candidate has a full-time job. They're going to work every day. They have to go to teach at a school or to open their shop, or any number of activities they have to do to make a living from day to day. So it's really difficult for third party candidates to spend the kind of time on the road that candidates in the other parties who are heavily funded, they have money for gas, they have money for food, they have money to repair their vehicles, they have money to give out to candidates, to give out to volunteers. So it's really very important that you, as an interested party, understand fully how the system works so that you're not having, the wrong understanding or the wrong expectations and not make the right decisions to help us to be able to make good representation for you. So let's have a look now at this video. Pay attention carefully. Then I'm going to take some questions on it. And then after that, we're going to go into the financial presentation for the UIC, where Ms. Taika Williams, our treasurer, is going to walk you through our income and our expenses. Then she's going to take a slice of our online donation and kind of walk you through some graphs and stuff so you understand the cycle and the sources of our funding and give you a better feel for how the UIC raises funds and how we spend those funds on your behalf. So let's begin now with that video on election funding in Jamaica and by extension political party funding and how that affects our political system here in Jamaica. Take a watch.
So ahead of the East Portland by-election, the Electoral Commission of Jamaica issued a reminder that candidates for pre-elections are now required to declare the source of their funding. So we've invited a couple of folks from the ECJ on that, Director of Legal Affairs, Colleen Wallen, and Registrar of Political Parties,
LaFron Thompson.
LaFron, may I go start with you because I never even know there was a registrar of political parties. What does that mean?
What do you do?
Well, the registrar is the officer who is in charge of the registration of political parties and also the person designated to give monitor of election campaign financing, the reporting of such by
All right, I'm hearing that you can't see the video. I am not sure why. We've been having this problem of late, where when we're trying to show a video, you're not able to see it. Not sure why that is happening. What shall we do now? All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to play the video anyway, and you listen keenly. Because you'll hear the voices and you'll hear the content. the content is the most important thing. So I'm going to be on the screen. I'm going to bring on the treasurer as well so you can see her, and so we don't bore you to death with a blank screen. So you're going to see her. I'll introduce her now for those of you who don't know her, and then we'll come back to the video and we will, see if we can at least hear the video. Because the content is very important. So listen in carefully, and I might even pause it from time to time so that I can explain the piece of it to you here and there. So let's see. All right, so bringing on the treasurer now. Good evening, Miss Williams. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Always smiling, unlike me. So, but good to see you on. Miss Williams, Naika Williams, is our treasurer. A young lady, 22 years old, if my memory serves me right.
Right.
Studied accounting up to the advanced level.
Sixth
What do they
one.
call it now? Sixth form level. And so she has been inducted into the all of learning by doing. And so she has been learning by doing. She's surrounded by a finance committee with some very able and very accomplished persons. You have Owen Alshaw, who is an MBA and has worked for years in government and all kind of stuff. And you have Gary Alshaw, who's a CPA, who runs an accounting firm and has a whole heap of accolades. I can't even name all of them. And you have Emma Gordon, who's also trained in accounting and highly experienced. So she has quite a good team supporting her. Of course, I'm always there helping out as well. But Naika, how are you finding your job so far as treasurer for the UIC?
Well, it's a full learning process to me. Because as I told you before, there are some things that I didn't know before, but I'm actually learning now. So it's like I'm at what would I call it? The UIC University, and I'm enjoying every bit of it.
Yes, wonderful. So she has been introduced to all the elements of accounting, the auditing aspect. She was quite instrumental in doing all the groundwork to get our audits done last year, for last year, and very engaged in all aspects from, preparing our revenue statement, income and expenditure statement, or balance sheet, or cash flow statement, doing analysis on our statistics, and putting together all kinds of material. She's also responsible for helping with the administration of the organization. So she has been quite involved there. I think she now has 5 years experience in a very short time. So thanks again, Naika, for doing this and for leading by example, because all our young people out there watching tonight can be very proud of you that you have represented them very, very well. So thank you for being here tonight. Let's listening now to the video and hope you can see it this time. Can you all see it right now in the background? Do you see the video in the background? Let me know if you can see the video showing on screen. A still picture of the video. Can you see it? Let me know if you can all see it now. And hopefully when I hit play, you'll be able to see it still. Can you see it? Anybody? Give me a yes or a no. Can you see it? Can you hear me even? Because I don't see anybody saying yes. Okay, so they can't see it. So that means, what this means, is that somehow it is being blocked from you. We can see it here in studio, but you can't see it. So obviously the goal is for you not to see, but let's see if you can hear it. We're going to start over. Okay? Going to start over now and see how it goes.
So ahead of the East Portland by-election, the Electoral Commission of Jamaica issued a reminder that parliamentary elections are now required to declare the source of their funding. So we invited a couple of folks from the ECJ to expound on that. Director of Legal Affairs, Colleen Wallen, and Registrar of Political Parties,
LaFron Thompson.
LaFron never started it because I never even know there was a registrar of political parties. What does that mean?
What do you do?
Well, The registrar is the officer who is in charge of the registration of political parties and also the person designated to give monitor of election campaign financing, the reporting of such by political parties, and the outline of spending within an election.
Okay.
Okay, why does the ECJ require candidates to declare their funding sources?
Well, the Representation of the People Act, Amendment Act of 2016, makes it mandatory that election campaign expenses be reported. It is that the law intends to give regulation to campaign financing and also to monitor what are the sources of funding going into election campaigns. Another benefit too is that it really creates transparency and it gives members of the society view or see of those persons who are influencers of the democratic process.
All right.
Okay.
Now, this will be the first time in Jamaica that the candidates would have to, and ahead of the by-election now, the by-election is when? April 4. Let's look at this. Have the parties declared their source of funding as yet? Legal officer?
Before we get to the declaration, there are
Yes.
several steps that must be complied.
Yes. Share that with
So
us.
it is important for us to understand what contributes or what is a contribution. Now, that is any gift, loans, or any benefit that can be computed in terms of money that is given to a political party or a candidate for the purposes of carrying out their political activities or for the election of a candidate.
So if me give him a dozen chicken to go give away, or me give Miss Vaz a dozen goat,
It is a contribution.
it's a contribution. All right.
Okay, and the
What's-
maximum
That's what I was gonna ask.
contribution
Yeah.
for a candidate per contributor is $1.5 million, and for the political party, it's $31.5 million.
How much?
$31.5 million
Per person?
per person.
Oh, so you can give to the party 30 million. Meaning, I'm saying, what do you mean? So-
Clarify.
Yeah.
You may
clarify.
give to the party $31.5 million in total.
Right.
However, if you should be funding a candidate,
Right, it's
as
one-
well as a party, you should not exceed $31.5 million.
million.
Because they have a budget, so each candidate is allowed up to $15 million to spend on campaign.
Really?
Yes, and the political party has up to $630 million.
Why put a cap on it? If oh, so it's fair, I guess, across all. I mean, who decides on these figures? It's in law.
It's the law.
It's passed.
I
as
guess
law.
it's to ensure that there's equity, and
Equity,
also
yeah.
that we don't get crazy and spend off all this money campaign.
$1.5 million for the candidate. Let me say that again. The reason for the cap is not what they're saying here. It's not about protecting the citizens or anything. It is about the PSOJ oligarchs setting a cap on how much money they want to give. So they have set a cap so that neither of the two parties can get more than what they have decided they're willing to give. So they're willing to give up to $30 million to each party. So each member of the PSOJ oligarchy, the richest people in Jamaica, are prepared to give $30 million to each of the parties for the campaign season, and $1.5 million to each of the candidates. So in effect, all 126 candidates can get $1.5 million from each of the wealthy people in Jamaica, and their parties can get $30 million from each of the wealthy people in Jamaica, which no ordinary third-party person operating on their own with a small existence will ever be able to compete with. So basically, they're locking up the nomination. They're buying who you're going to be able to vote for, because you're not going to hear from those people who don't have enough money. So that's really what's going on here. But let's continue and listen some more.
and then when the election done, none left to the people in
When
the
election done, you
constituency.
lose. Money gone down the drain. No.
Who can make, sorry, my love,
Yeah.
who can make a contribution? Are there limits as who and who are,
Right.
will be
There
able to?
are persons who may contribute are private individuals, companies, entities, or persons within the Jamaican Diaspora group. A political party may also fund its candidate. There is a standard of impermissible contributors, and this will include any foreign government, the agent of a foreign government, a public body, or any entity who wishes to be undisclosed, or if their activities are illegal, they are not allowed to make contributions to the campaign process.
No,
And then
we
there are
see
government entities as well.
government
Public
entities
bodies.
can't. No, public bodies can't.
Okay.
However, we see in the current campaigning of the two parties for East Portland, you see Damien Crawford has a crowdfunding.
Okay.
Now, where does the law sit with public campaigning on a platform like that? Because you're getting sources. I mean, did you have to declare, for example, I'm just putting it out there as a shareholder, holding.
We're a community of over 20,000 doctors. We have practiced at
Holding this conversation right now, I want to know, can you take the money on crowdfunding, or do you have to now declare who contributed on that platform, for example,
If he
for
doesn't
transparency?
get more than $250,000 from a contributor,
Jamaican?
yeah.
Okay.
There's no need for a declaration.
Okay,
So there is
okay.
a cap.
Okay.
So any contributor who makes $250,000 or more, they
That's
are
when you can
required
declare.
to make a
Okay,
declaration.
that should be good.
All right. How is the declaration done?
Yeah.
Declarations are done within prescribed forms, and these are listed to the ECJ's website. In fulfilling the requirements under the law, the candidate is responsible for submitting these declarations within 6 weeks of an election, and declarations are to be supplemented with the vouchers or receipts that he would have gained from contributors.
He or she.
He or she, yes.
Equity.
He or she gained from contributors of value $10,000 or more.
Yeah.
Where a contributor does not provide a voucher or an invoice, then a candidate is expected to issue a statement of receipt for
Right.
any value that he would have gained during a campaign period.
Okay.
For contributions of $250,000 or more, what is to be issued is a receipt of contribution, and this is Form 5 within the different forms that are listed. Form 6, rather, that is supposed to be submitted to the commission.
Hold on, slow down, register. How many forms are there?
There are many forms.
People out there campaigning, so there's time to sit down and say, how
Well-
many, you read 6, how many are we going to?
Altogether in the regulations,
Yes.
there are 10 forms.
Wow, okay.
10 forms. And a candidate will have a number of forms within which they have to fulfill their obligations under the law.
What's the time frame?
One of the things I want to point out to you at this juncture is for you to realize that the system sounds a bit convoluted, doesn't it? It's not very complex. You can break it down, quite well, and you can see all the pieces. But it's really tricky. It's convoluted, and what this does, believe it or not, it eliminates the small man from the electoral process. The more complex you make a system is the more you make sure that only those who have a lot of time or a lot of money, and normally both. If you have a lot of time but you don't have any money, then obviously you're not going to have the money to communicate with the masses. You won't have the money to buy the Land Rovers, yes, and the Jeeps and the whatever, and to put large number of people together on buses or whatever and pay for campaign stuff, food, drink, hotel accommodations, you won't have the money to do that. So if you're an ordinary Jamaican trying to be an independent candidate or starting a small third party and trying to break the system, you have no hope, because remember, you're not going to get any money from the PSOJ oligarchy. They have 2 horses in the race, and they're funding both horses with the expectation that regardless of which of the horses win, they will have the reins. So they'll be able to fully control the people and decide, how this is going to go. So regulations are often used as a barrier to entry. Believe it or not, they normally tell us that regulations are to help. but it's usually a barrier to entry used to keep people out because only the rich has the resources to pay to deal with all of the regulations. So it's a great way of keeping the small man out of the system. But let us continue.
Frame. So the election's April 4. Do I have to declare a week, a month, 2 days?
6 weeks.
6 weeks
But
before?
this 6 weeks, there's
No,
no
6 weeks after
Oh,
the
that
election.
after the election, you
Yeah.
declare.
You have the campaign period,
Right.
which starts on the day when the Prime Minister makes the announcement, and it
Right.
ends 24 hours before the calling of the election. The reporting period starts also on the day when the announcement is made for the election and continues up to 181 days after.
Then suppose after me when you find a problem with the money.
You
What
can't
happen?
take back the seat. Can you?
Well, after you've won,
Well,
then
it
if
is
there's a
subject to
problem,
scrutiny.
Okay.
And then you will have to come before the commission and
Right.
make a declaration.
But you can't take back.
So here's the trick, right? So what they've just told you, this full convoluted story, it only applies to the point where the Prime Minister calls the election and 24 hours before the election day itself. So all of this convolution only applies, or most of it applies in this segment. It's meant to confuse and to distort. Remember, these rich people and rich companies are able to give as much as they want before this election period. They're not limited by the 30 million or the 1.5 million or anything like that. So during the election period, they can pump this big amount in, but outside of the election period, they can pump an even bigger amount in. So the party can still spend this bigger amount later on, of course, within the budgeted period, but they can spend it throughout the year, doing things within the community to trick the people, to make the people endeared to their candidate, and then the candidate wins. But remember, all of that money will be paid back somehow. The question is, how? Let's continue.
Back my seat.
I think at this
Not
point
the
too,
seat.
I'm just saying. If you like, okay, we have to answer. And we sit
But there
before
are
commission.
penalties where breaches have occurred.
yeah.
So for non-disclosure, you can find up to $1 million. Where it is that someone has made a false declaration, they can be fined up to $3 million on summary conviction in the RM court. And in default of making that payment, a prison time not exceeding 12 months. So
Right.
there are consequences.
But you don't take back the seat.
No.
well, I can't remember, a candidate too is expected to make a declaration that contributions are permissible. And if it is that he would have done so falsely, then he would have contravened the law, and then he would be subject to conviction.
No anonymous donations.
Yes.
You need to know where your money is coming from. All right, candidates. Now, next question, ladies. Campaigning within this law. When does campaigning start? And so you can campaign for years before, can you?
No,
the
the act is specific. Campaign period starts on the day for the purposes of a by-election. On the day when the PM makes the announcement, and it expires 24 hours before the opening.
I think
of
what
the
Empress is saying is that I could, in my mind, say I'm going to run for Member of Parliament for Television Jamaica next year.
That's where I go for?
But me start from now, and I start meeting people, and so technically campaigning has started. But are you saying under this law I don't need to declare
until
there has been an official declaration?
That's why I'm going to
vote for you. It is a loophole.
The Festival Queen, St. Catherine. They should run, They should run one day for MP. So
I understand the law, but I think
there are some
adjustments need to be made.
Like what?
Because if I know that I can campaign ahead of the actual time, then I go and take the bulk of money that I go and get from people and start campaign in the pre-campaign.
But what does campaigning mean? This is my thing. So I decide that I'm going to work in a community, right? Like what we do in Jamaica. What you do? We go place, we are work and campaign. You might even
is
wear your green and orange
geared
shirt.
towards election activities.
Right. So they're
Right?
saying time.
So within a
it's when the
period
official
of
It's a
election time starts.
yes.
Isn't that what you're saying?
Right,
But
yes.
I
So
don't know
I'm
what,
saying,
what
but
you're saying is
I'm
what-
saying that outside of the official time,
that you can spend
if
all this
I have
money
been
before.
in there for 2 years spending money towards becoming MP,
Right.
I should also
no
be
count.
made to
No,
to
it can't, because you can't say me I spend my money in my constituency where me live.
Me want to
or
know
where
say
me
your
want-
money you
where me
spend,
want
though.
work. It don't matter because campaign the election hasn't been
No,
called.
but it's a loophole if me smart.
But every law has loophole. That's why you have lawyer.
Would I spend most of my
Every law has loophole.
Would I say if you not give me the money, give me before the by-election time.
Where you
I
running,
spend the
Daniel?
money before.
Where you running?
TVJ.
We don't know for your party. You know our party and you know where she running. Look for Delia in the next election. Yeah, man, we know it. I'm putting it out there.
Me I run for TVJ. The
Ladies.
Electoral Commission ladies must say, so what is pandem on this?
I know, this is morning.
No, but ladies, you were very, thank you very much because you
Yeah.
clarified some
Definitely.
things that were necessary and also necessary for contributors to know
Right.
that when they're giving, these are the things that are in place to protect them, which is very important.
Thank
Anything
you
else
for
you want to
having
say before you go?
Contributors, where they need to declare contributions in excess of $250,000,
Yes.
and also where they hold contracts for up to a period of 2 years prior to making a contribution, they will have to disclose such to the commission.
If the
And
contract is
if after
500,000.
making a contribution, they gain a contract up to 2 years after, and that is valued at 500,000 or more, then they
Speak.
must disclose it
Amen.
to the commission.
I agree
Well,
with
there
you.
you go.
I
So
agree
if
with you.
I give Delia 250,000,
And then me, I go hire you and give you back $1 million.
well, links. Link it. Does the public have to know? Is there any kind of privacy? Because, for example, a lot of looking at the political atmosphere in Jamaica, so I may not want anybody to know that I actually gave Delia the 250. The public. I don't mind you knowing. Electoral Commission of Jamaica may know. I don't have a problem with that. But what if I don't want, because of the political
I
atmosphere?
don't want Aaron to know.
Well,
I don't
the
want.
commission has a responsibility to disclose all contributions above $1 million.
Oh, above $1 million.
Yes.
So my 250, look, money there. The one.
Unless it further comes into disrepute.
Right.
The public doesn't have to know that 250 came from me.
Currently,
set
the
the-
law
you
does
set-
not
you set
stipulate
people up.
with regard to $250,000, but it specifies above $1 million, then the commission will have to
So I'm only
disclose
giving you
such.
$999,999.
Okay, ma'am. You see,
And I don't have-
break rules.
Well, she would still be compliant.
Yes, I'm very compliant.
Oh,
yes.
Lord.
Ladies, thank you for sharing that. We do need to have more of these conversations. I
Yes,
hope that you have some money from our taxes to put out some PSAs to let the public understand how it works, because we need more education on the political process.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
So we'll see you in East Portland, April 4. Will you be there?
The commission.
The commission will be there. All righty. From the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, Director of Legal Affairs, Colleen Wallen, and Registrar of Political Parties, LaFron Thompson.
All right. How is coconut harvesting being made easy?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say to all of you who have just watched that, this is no laughing matter. It is not a joke. I know they have made it funny and trivial and light, but this is very serious business. It is so serious that persons are willing to pay millions and millions of dollars to win your government. They're willing to pay millions. One company alone is willing to give $31.5 million in order for you to be able to go out and vote. They love you so much. And the candidate is willing to pay $15 million to win your vote. This is very serious business. And they're very committed to making sure that the Jamaican people never, ever have a real vote, a real election, and a real government. Okay, so they're paying for that. So basically, the UIC has a much better system in mind for you. Our system is very, very simple, will ensure real transparency, real accountability, and give you good governance. So the current system right now is built on a system called the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. This commission consists almost entirely of representatives from the two political parties, and those who claim to be independent are appointed by one or the other of the two colonial parties. So the commission itself is a bipartisan body which protects the interests of the two major parties while pretending to be protecting the interest of the Jamaican people. That's number one. So the ECJ, which is supposed to be a public body protecting you, is really owned and operated by the two major political parties. The two major political parties are owned and operated by the PSOJ oligarchs. You follow me here? So the two parties own the ECJ by default. The two parties are owned by the PSOJ by default because they fund both of them. And so, in effect, when you go to the polls to vote, you are voting for the PSOJ because the two parties will be working for the PSOJ. So here's the math for you. 126 candidates, 63 on one side and 63 on the other side, 126 candidates will cost the ECJ, the PSOJ, roughly directly through the campaign period about $660 million. In terms of the candidates and the 15 million they get through other means, that's going to be $1.89 billion. So these guys are prepared to spend close to or over, depending on what it rounds out to, $2 billion to own your government. $2 billion roughly to own your government. So between $1 billion and $2 billion, they're prepared to spend to make sure they have control of your government. That is why we can't get anything done. That is why our school system is failing. That's why our healthcare system is failing. That's why we have such a high crime rate. That's why our dollar is devaluing. That's why wages are so low. That's why opportunities are so few. That's why people don't own property. That's why the majority of Jamaicans are not property owner. That's why it's so expensive to buy a home, to own property, to make something of yourself here in Jamaica. Those of us who manage to get an education, our best way out is to leave the country where we can go somewhere else to work and send back remittance. And they want that to happen. They do not want the best and the brightest to stay here because they're going to create too much problem. They're going to question the system and they're going to seek to overturn the system. So they want you to leave and go overseas and don't vote and don't participate and allow them to continue to be the middleman that controls Jamaica on behalf of the colonial masters and their PSOJ local masters. The UIC system is 100% different from this. When we take over the government of Jamaica, we're going to change the entire colonial model with one key thing. We're going to make sure that we have a publicly funded campaign financing system. 100%. There'll be absolutely no private money at all in the UIC system of elections. How will a person be elected in the UIC system? Simple. The person will first have to undergo a test where they study to understand good governance. We want persons who truly understand what good governance is and how to make proper representation for their constituents and how to understand the data and information that will come before them so they can make sound decisions in the interest of developing our nation. These persons, once they pass the good governance test, will have to go into their local community on their own and get a few persons to sign to nominate them. Once these persons sign to nominate them, say about 25 to 50 persons, depending on the office you're running for, those persons are ultimately giving you their vote. So they're going to take it very seriously because they're signing away their vote to you. Once you have those two things, which is you've passed the test and you have gotten your your nominees, and we look at your record and see that you're a person of good repute, meaning you have demonstrated good work ethics, you have demonstrated that you have managerial skills and all of that kind of stuff. Then you go to the next stage. The next stage, you're given equal access to radio, television, and the newspaper, like all the other candidates, and you're given equal access to the internet on the same platform as the other candidates. And then you're invited to town hall meetings and debates like all the other candidates in terms of your constituency. So if you're running for councillor, you'll be on the stage with all the others who are running for councillor in your area. You'll get to talk to the people just like they are talking to the people. You'll then be in the same debates with them. You'll even be given proper clothing if you don't have any, and proper coaching, speech coaching, whatever. All candidates given the same access, whether you're rich or you're poor. So no candidate will be at a disadvantage because they're poor, and no candidate will be at an advantage because they are rich in our system. Once you've gone through all of this, the people then be able to vote. It will be a very quiet affair. There'll be no excesses, no whole heap of spending. It's very structured, very orderly, and will push the focus on content, the content of your personality, the content of your character, the content of your message. Once you have made all your statements, produced your manifesto, all of that will be checked by an audit team that will, fact check what you have said and report back to the public at large, so we know that you weren't lying or being deceptive and so on. And you can challenge all of that. Once that's done, the people simply vote. No fanfare, no billions of dollars, and now you have somebody who truly represents you. The person must live in the community that they represent or the parish that they represent. Of course, if they're running for senator in the Senate. So unlike the current system, the UIC model is 100% publicly funded, very transparent, and gives equal opportunity to rich or poor to run in any election and have the same chances of winning. It will come down to the content of their character, the quality of their message, and their ability to win the support of the people through explaining what they're offering. The UIC is the way to go, my friends. We must stop this gravy train. We must stop our government to be one that can be bought by the richest members of our society. We must put government back in the hands of the people if we want good governance. So before we go to our financials now, I'm going to take a few questions. Naika, you can help me with this. And then we're going to go to our finances afterwards. So any questions out there? Or comments, Naika can pop them up on the board for us and we can look at them quickly.
Well, this is a comment, but there is also let me put it up. It's a comment and a question in one.
Okay, go ahead. Read it out for us so we can hear.
Okay, the media just promulgates the nastiness and then make
light and humor of it. Yeah.
Humor of it. See your problem?
Yes, exactly. So they don't get the people to truly understand what is going on and how we need to fix it. They make joke of it, make light of it, and then just move it along. And most Jamaicans still don't know how the system works and how it is working against them. Good point. Next question or comment?
There's a comment from Deborah Williams. People, listen to these people. They are normalizing the laws, that laws have loopholes. Laws should be direct and to the point without gray or funny areas. Any law that is not direct is inviting corruption.
Absolutely, absolutely. So they create laws with loopholes that they intend to exercise for the benefit of those who continue to control our government. Any other questions or comments that you want to show?
A comment here from Jasmine Powell. they fund the puppet, and the money is the main attraction for politicians more than the interest or affair of the people.
Absolutely. So the reason why people go into politics today, for the most part, is the fact that they're going to have access to big money, access to opportunities for corruption. It's not about fixing the country. I can tell you this: there's nobody right now in either of the two colonial parties who could be very serious about fixing Jamaica. Nobody. Because if you know how the system's set, if you know what's going on, and one of two things. If you know what's going on and you join, then you're a very bad person. If you don't know what's going on and you join, then you are a incompetent person. So who do you want to run your country? Somebody who is incompetent or somebody who is corrupt? So that's the only two options. So anybody who is in any of these two parties, anyone at all, they're either incompetent, meaning they're ignorant, they don't know what's going on, they don't understand the system, and so they've joined this being ignorant. For example, there's a young man that many of us may admire. He's a young economist, very bright guy, and he joined one of the parties. And when I see him join, I said, I thought this gentleman had, some upstairs. Then he went in, they crushed him, and he came out and he told us how wicked the system is. So I'm saying, why didn't you know that before you go in? You should have known by just studying Jamaica's history. Anyways, he went in, they crushed him, he came out, and he said, it's really bad, it's wicked, it's a horrible thing. And then now he's back in again. And I can tell you the only reason he's back in again is because he realizes only those who are connected to the system are likely to be wealthy in this country. If you don't join that club, you're unlikely to be wealthy in this country. You can become wealthy outside of it. You can become wealthy in it and by working very, very hard, because it's going to be so many obstacles in front of you. So this young man would have realized that his best bet at gaining wealth and financial security in Jamaica, if he's going to stay here, is by joining one of the two camps. The UIC is trying to break that system and free the Jamaican people from that, so you can become successful, wealthy, honestly, decently, normally, without having to use the corruption of politics to get there. Next question or comment?
Okay, this question is from Norman Smith. Will politics be taught in school to give the young an opportunity to be knowledgeable about politics?
Excellent question. So the UIC's education policy, called the LEAP Learning Enrichment Advanced Program, is designed 100% to do everything that is not being done now. So our children are going to understand good governance. It's going to be good governance classes in our school, good governance lessons on our public media spaces, and good governance lesson free of charge for any citizen who wants to fully understand how government works. And later on, they might choose to run for office. So you can take the course even if you're not going to run for office. But to run for office, you must take the course, fully understand. And it's not just governance in the simple sense. It includes history. You have to understand international history. You have to understand monetary history. You have to understand political systems generally and see the pros and the cons of those different systems. You have to understand political economy so that you are able to interpret data and information when it comes to you. So it's going to be a comprehensive program that will make sure that any citizen who studies it is well equipped and prepared to make good decisions on a day-to-day basis as it relates to political economy. Next question.
There's another question here from Chad Truth Vibes. How about if you caught one of your UIC members in corruption? What's the punishment for that person?
Well, the punishment for any person caught in corruption in Jamaica will be the same. You have broken the law, you're going to be tried in a court of law, and if you have found stealing, then you get the punishment that is prescribed in law for stealing. So any form of corruption will be punished fully in the system. I can't tell you a specific punishment, like we're not going to pull their nails out or anything like that. We're going to have the laws that punish you. I like the way Singapore dealt with it. Basically, if you're caught in corruption, you're losing your assets. Yeah. So your assets that you have gained through corruption, you're losing that. You're also losing the opportunity to run for office ever again. So there's some serious consequences that will be meted out through the legal system for anyone found in corruption. And there will be no exceptions from the top to the bottom. And it will not be something that, like, as president, if I'm president of Jamaica, I will not have the ability to pardon anyone. So unlike the American system where the president can pardon somebody, the UIC believes if you're convicted, if you're properly tried and convicted for a crime, you serve the time. Nobody should have the power to pardon you just because they got elected as president or any other position in the system. Any other?
No other questions yet, but one thing that I to point out in the interview that was just done, when she said if the candidates breach the law, right, they can either be fined or imprisoned for up to 12 months, but they don't lose their candidacy. Isn't that them allowing criminals to basically lead us?
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, the $1 million, for example, is very, very small in comparison to the amount of money you can get. So let's say you got 30 million and it's found to be there's a breach somewhere. You only pay $1 million. The judge has the leeway, by the way, not to imprison you. So very likely you will not go to prison. It's just there to suggest that you're going to do something. But if you are a connected person, you're not going to prison. If I do it, if the UIC is caught in anything that goes wrong, we're going to prison. They're going to give us the maximum penalty. So those laws are there for the people that want to deal with it, not for those that they're going to excuse. So let's say one of the two major party guys are found to be, they've done something wrong within this context. The judge has the leeway to charge them $100,000, $200,000, $50,000, and say, go on, and no time in jail. So the law, it only sounds punitive, but it's not necessarily going to be administered that way. All right. So there's a question here by Elaine Besley. Will there be a plan? Go ahead, Naiko.
Will there be a plan structure for the education of uneducated people? The adults are not able to finish, may have had to discontinue their education abruptly for various reasons.
Great questions. The UIC has a policy or a program called Workfare. It is precisely for such persons. The Workfare, we don't believe in welfare, by the way. The UIC will not offer any welfare program. We have a Workfare program to help unemployed adults or uneducated adults to get themselves upgraded. This is a completely, no cost to them program. So the person doesn't have to pay any money. They just get into the program, they get retraining, and they get an opportunity for a job. So if you don't have a job, you're unemployed, you've been trying for a while, can't find a job, we place you. So we bring you in, do some retraining, and we place you in a sector where you can learn and develop yourself as an adult who may have, been somewhat disconnected from the system based on all the challenges we have. So that's what we're going to be doing. All right, so let's now go to your presentation, Madam Treasurer. Over to you. You're muted, by the way. You're muted.
Oh, sorry about that.
All right, so go ahead and do your presentation now, and I'll be here to help out as well.
Okay, no problem. Okay, let me make this on a big screen. Can everybody see it properly? Just say yes or no in the comments. Okay, great. I can move on now. Now for this, some persons are saying no, they can't see it. Still not seeing it? Let me go off and I'm back on. Can you see it now? Oh.
Okay, so you're all not seeing the PowerPoint presentation, are you? All right, let's take you off for a second. I'm taking it off for a second here. I'm taking it off for a second, and I'm also, well, no voice. Can you hear my voice? It's saying you're muted, but I hope you can all hear my voice. And I'm going to try to see if I can bring in the presentation. If the system will allow me to do so. This is really weird. Was able to see that before. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so you can hear me, you can see me, but I'm trying to get the presentation up. I'm doing the shared screen bit. I'm looking at the windows here, but for some reason it is not showing. Why is this?
This always happens in the middle of every presentation. There's always some difficulty.
All right, so let's see if we can try this again one more time. Okay. So, okay. Window, share. Okay, so it is showing this window, but it's not showing the presentation. So let's see if we can do this again. Have no fear, we're going to figure it out. We're going to get this working. Okay, entire screen. All right, try it again from your end, Naika. Not sure why mine isn't showing. Try it from your end.
Okay. Okay, so I'm bringing it on now.
All right, everyone. Let me know if you can see it now. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Can you see the PowerPoint presentation now? You're off screen. We're not hearing you, Mr. P. If we're talking, we're not hearing you.
All right, sorry. Well, I was talking to myself. I'm saying I'm not sure why one person can see it, but others cannot see it. I'm not sure why that is the case. Okay, I think
Nobody is actually seeing it. Jasmine was saying she can hear you, not seeing the presentation.
okay, but she's not seeing. Okay. Yeah, this thing is not even allowing me to share my screen. I don't know why it is not allowing me to share my screen. Right, it's showing all of this here, but it's not allowing me. Well, what can we want to show you our finances, but the universe is saying we shall not show you our finances. and I do not know why it is doing that. Let me try this again.
Oh, persons are saying they're seeing it now. Yay.
They're seeing it now.
Yeah. So I guess
Wow.
we can
Okay.
now.
All right. All right. Let's go ahead. I will come off.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so for this presentation, we'll be looking at three things mainly. So we'll be looking at our expense and revenue. We'll be looking at our donation from the online portal, and we'll also be looking at our fundraiser goal, where we are so far, and where we are so far from the goal. So let's move on. All right, this slide shows our income and expenditures. So for the past 9 months, you can see that majority of the months our expenses have really exceeded our revenue. The only time that our revenue actually exceeded our expenses would have been in February, but all the other months, and significantly so in the last 4 months, which is June, July, August, and September, it would have exceeded by more than 200%, which it tells us that we're really operating the negatives at the moment. Now, this gives us a breakdown of our revenue, what came in. So our gross revenue is a total of 3,998,979 and 54 cents. So for our revenue, the sources would have been from donations. As you know, the UIC is strictly funded by donations. From membership dues, advertising income, merchandise sales, which is from our t-shirts, and interest income. For donations, in donations, we got a total of a little over 3.2 million. For membership dues, it's $265,258.87, which is 7.4% of the gross revenue. The donation is 77.2%. For advertising income, that's $19,562.19, which is just 0.5% of the gross revenue. For merchandise sales, we've sold $486,245 in shirt sales, which is 14.1% of the total revenue, my apologies. And interest income is $25,000 of the gross revenue. Sorry about that, my slide paused, and I'm not sure why. Okay, great. So I'm back here. Okay, so let's move on to our expenses. So like before, I would have mentioned that the gross revenue would have been a little over 3.9 mil, almost 4 mil. And our expenses it's 6 million 9,476 dollars. Now for our expenses, what would I bring it to? That total would have been community engagement projects, sorry, which includes the Good Governance Walk, the St. Thomas store, the 14 parish store. That would have included printing and production as well. Printing, production, and office supplies. For our staff and contract services, that is $3,068,000. Now, for that, which is 51% of the expenses, I must point out. Now, a portion of that, it is what is paid out, and which is 1,064,000 is paid out. The remainder is not paid out, which is 2,040,000. That is not paid out. So that is approved stipend, but it still has to be recorded as an expense, even though it is not paid out. For candidates and governance, that is a total of 900,825 Jamaican dollars, which is 15% of the total expense. Now that includes accommodation, food, and beverages, travel expenses, and equipment rental. We also have an expense for rent, and that is a donation from Mr. and Mrs. Patterson. So we use their office space as the UIC's office. For software subscriptions, that is 511,064 cents. Now, if you notice, sometimes if you've signed up on our platforms, you would have gotten some emails stating any upcoming events that we may have, or inviting you to a public meeting. So that's our platform that we use. So this is a total that we paid from January to September. That's over a 9-month period. For legal expenses, that is $26,825, and that is just 0.4% of the total expense. Legal expenses would include all the costs covered on a day when Mr. Patterson has court, which is really not his court, but everybody's court, because that's the reason why he's actually going there. For telephone expenses, that is $38,653, $38,653.65, which is 0.6% of the total expense. For general admin expenses, that is a combination of advertising and promotion, bank charges, canvassing, donation, postage and delivery, and repair maintenance as well. That is a total of $287,822.14, and that's 4.7% of the total expense. Oh, so that would take us to what our net revenue is. So the gross revenue is what I mentioned before. So that is what came in the organization. For the cost of merchandise sold, that is what we paid for the shirts that we're selling, which is $513,569. All right, so that would leave us with a net revenue of $3,485,410. So let me move on, and I'll show you a calculation of where I mentioned that we're operating in a deficit. Okay, you're frozen again. Right. So this would have been the difference between our net revenue and our expenses, which we're at a negative $2,524,065. So that would have been the 6 million, the little over 6 million minus the 3 million, the $3.4 million. And that's what leaves us at this negative right here that you're seeing. You want to add to that, Mr. P?
No, you're doing very fine. Please continue.
Okay, before I move on to the next slide, do we have any questions?
Take some questions on this slide. All right. Anyone have any questions on anything you've seen so far? I hope you've been able to see it. I know it's been a bit of a challenge. I hope you were able to see all of the presentation so far. Any questions from anyone on the presentation so far?
Is all clear.
Okay. All right. So people are seeing,
Yeah.
but they may not have any question because, you know, when it comes on to figures, you know, sometimes people are shy to ask questions, but please don't be.
It's their money, so they have all the if they have all the questions in the world to ask, they can ask it.
Yeah. And there seems to be a delay between the questions coming in and where we are in the presentations. I'm not too sure what's happening in the real world. I wonder if I can look on my phone here and see what's happening, you know, on the wider, you know, thing here. Let me see what's going on. Let me check
Yeah,
this out.
and I'm surprised persons are still answering the question if they're seeing it no.
Exactly. So I think something might be going on that we're not fully aware of. How do I do this now? Well, this is still saying the event is going to be live soon. So let me see. What am I missing here? It's okay. Here we go. Okay, so I think we're good now. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm just checking to see what it's looking like on the live itself. I think people are hearing us. Anyone have any questions? Any questions or comments? Please feel free to let us know before we move to the rest of the presentation.
No, persons are still answering that they're hearing.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but something isn't quite right, but I can't figure it out from here. I wonder if Mr. Harper is on. He can give us some feedback out there to let us know. Let me check my WhatsApp, see if I get any messages coming in. Okay, so I'm seeing comments coming in now.
Yeah.
It says, okay. So one says, we've incurred a large expense in operation, which is necessary. We could also try other fundraising activities. All right.
So there's one person asking, how do I get a shirt?
All right. So that's an easy answer. You can purchase the shirt online.
Or they can sometimes send an email ordering the shirts as well and make the payments online.
Right. So Douglas is saying it's loud and clear on their end, so there's no issues there. It says Jamaicans are not accustomed to contributing election campaign donations. Generally, they're the ones receiving. How do USC bridge that reluctance? Very good question. Very good point. The UIC is trying to bridge that gap by educating Jamaicans to realize that the two parties that they have trusted, they should never have trusted them because they're being funded by, you know, one source to play us, and they're playing us. So we're trying to educate Jamaicans to say, listen, become aware and let's change now and become a donor. It's working. We're getting donations, not as much as we need yet, but we're getting there. You know, we started off with zero. You know, when I started 10 years ago, 11 years ago, it was zero. And we've gone from zero. Last year, it was $3 million. This year, it's going to be well over 4 million now because we're already at 4 million, almost, right? So in another 2 months, we'll be over, you know, probably get to 5 million by the end of this month. So it's growth, but it's very slow growth, painful growth, but we're beginning to get through to people. And the more we keep working at it, is the more we're going to get people to realize what we have to do to save our country. Any other questions or comments?
What's the cost for a shirt?
The cost for a shirt, if I can remember correctly, I think the one you're wearing, Miss Williams, is what? What's the price for that?
It's 3,000.
3,500.
Right.
3,500, I'm sure. And then you have the polo shirt, which I think is 2,500. And then you
2,500.
have the other thinner jersey type shirt, which I think is 1,500.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right.
What's the process with the 25 per month? How does the UIC collect it? Kirk will collect it through all the means listed on our website. So if you go on the website and click on donate, it will show you different ways you can donate. One of the best ways is to just set up a recurring payment when you go on the system. Set the recurring payment up so that it sends us $25 automatically every month. Thanks for asking. Beulah says her donation is coming soon. Thank you, Beulah.
Okay, there's a question here from Douglas Harper. What are the plans to get more revenue?
Well, the best plan, you see, there are many ideas people have about fundraising, but the truth is most fundraising activities net you very little. You spend a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of money, and then you're lucky if you get back what you spent. So you do the activity, it makes you feel good maybe, but you just get back what you have spent, which is nothing in the end, or a small incremental amount. So the best way to fund the UIC is not by us doing major fundraising. That's really a lot of time, a lot of effort. It's really for us Jamaicans to donate. So for example, here in Jamaica, the membership fee is $250 a week. So if 250,000 Jamaicans gave $250 a week, we win the election. If 1,000 persons living in America, Canada, or UK gives $25 a month, we win the election. That's all we need. Now, we would love more, but I know that with $25 a month from 1,000 persons, we will win significantly in the next election. But we have to get that money now. Time is running out. The next election is going to be in February. The local government election will be in February. And sometime in 2024, which is not far away. In the 23 is 12 months. So sometime in 2024, so roughly 14 to 18 months, we're going to have general elections. It's not very far. So we do need to get to 1,000 donors in the diaspora quickly. Right now we have about 160 persons, 164. So we need 1,000. Help us to get to 1,000 donors at 25 per month, and we nail it. Here in Jamaica, help us to get to the ordinary Jamaican, the poor Jamaican, giving $250 a month. Sorry, a week. That's all. $250 a week from all of us here in Jamaica. Not the entire population. The entire population won't give that. But if 100,000, 200,000, 250,000 Jamaicans give $250, just $250 a week, we can rescue our country from the two colonial parties and the PSOJ and give it back to the people and make every Jamaican a property owner. Next question.
Beulah is asking can Jamaicans overseas vote?
The current system does not allow Jamaicans staying overseas to vote. If you can find the plane fare to come down to Jamaica and the time to stay here for a few weeks and go to the office and register, you must have an address here in Jamaica that you are saying you live at. Then you go and you register at the local electoral office, and then you'll have to be at home when they come and check on you. So if you're on vacation, chances are you're probably not at home when they come to check. So you wouldn't get registered. But the first thing is to get registered. If you are registered before you go back to where you're living normally, then when the election is called again, you would have to fly down at election time and come to vote. Not many of you can do that, but all of you can donate. And every dollar you donate is a vote for good governance. Every time you donate to the UIC, your one donation may help us to get 100 votes, 20 votes, 30 votes. So your donation is more important than you flying down here, trying to get registered, and then flying back down here for the election. That's very expensive. That's 2 plane fares. Just give us one of them. Give us one in the plane fare, and we'll do the rest for you. we will invest that plane fare in getting local Jamaicans here to vote on your behalf. Not illegally, I mean voting instead of you coming to vote. They vote. And through that, we build a strong coalition. If the diaspora join us by helping us to raise the money to reach the people here, then they will vote so that you can come back to Jamaica and retire in a safe, clean, and orderly country. So, next question.
Okay, this is from Douglas Harper. How far are we with the number of $25 per month?
Roughly, well, you're going to see it in a bit. I'm going to show you a chart later on and you'll see some numbers there. Next question.
Right, that should be it for the questions for now. Yeah, that's it for the question.
All right. Well, there's one comment at the top right now from Patriotic Vibes. He says the average Jamaican is not thinking about giving $250 a week to no election campaign. To get them to do that, it would be like pulling teeth. Yes, Patriotic Vibes, it is very difficult to get Jamaicans to do what they need to do if we're going to save this country. Now, the fact that it is hard, to do doesn't mean we don't need to do it. So if I was to look at how hard it is for us to get to where we are now, I wouldn't have done it. So I have done the hard things to get here, the impossible things to get here, and others have joined me and are doing the hard things to push us forward. So let us not be deterred by how hard the task is. Can you imagine being a slave back in the 1600s, and you wake up in the morning and you look around you and you see some wicked plantation owners and you see your fellow brothers and sisters in slavery, and you say, my God, this is hopeless. There's nothing we can do. Now, if everybody thought that way, then nothing would be done, and today would still be in chains right now. But thankfully, there were a few people like Nani, like Sam Sharp, and others who decided that they were going to fight to the bitter end. And because they fought and didn't give up in the face of certain impossibility, we're here today with a certain degree of freedom. So now all you have to do is to say, forget about how difficult the task may seem. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to donate my $25, and I'm going to invite my family and friends in Jamaica or overseas to do their part, and gradually we'll get there. Can you imagine? We started with zero. We managed to get some $6 million over the first 9-10 year period. Over the entire period, that's a long period for $6 million, which is, And then last year, 2021, we did about $3 million, which is nothing, but something great. I mean, it's more than zero. And so far this year, we're heading towards $4 or $5 million. Again, small, but we're growing from zero. For me, anything more than zero is better than zero for me. So I'm glad to get more than zero, and I hope you feel the same way too. So let's continue. All right. That's correct, Carol. The hotter the battle, the sweeter the victory. Absolutely. All right. So yeah, go ahead, Naika.
No, I was going to say we have two questions here.
Okay. Go ahead.
Beulah is asking, do I need a Jamaican passport or can I use my birth certificate to register to vote?
You need a government ID. You need some kind of identification to register in the process. So your birth certificate is a start. I'm sure you have a passport, maybe, I hope. But at the end of the day, you're going to get an ID out of it. You're going to get a voter's ID. So you have to provide, proof of your name, proof of your address, and, that kind of basic stuff. And they're going to come and verify you. And then you'll get a vote. All right. Next question.
Patriotic Vibe says, my question is how and what measures will we employ to change that mindset and get local to own the movement?
The main approach is to educate the persons to make the choices that they need to make. I can't get into a lot more details on that. Our friends are listening, but we are educating Jamaicans. And by the way, we are succeeding in educating Jamaicans. If you look at this chart that Ms. Williams presented earlier, you'd see that we have a fairly decent amount of membership revenues coming from local Jamaicans here at home. All right, let's go public. That's correct, Alan Scott. Let's go public. All right, next, let's move on now to the rest of the chart because we are running out of time. So I will hide you here, Ms. Williams, so you're not interfering with the chart. So here's a chart, my friends, which shows just the online portion of our donation. This is what happens online. It's in Canadian dollars because the online account is in Canadian dollars. So that's why you're seeing Canadian dollars on the screen. So between January of this year and September 30th or somewhere thereabouts, I just got a message here. Somebody wants to send us $250 US. Thank you for that. I'll respond to you shortly. So this shows you a graph. If you look at last year, 2021 is the yellow line, and the bluish line or greenish line, whatever that is, which is the top line, shows you what's happening this year. So you'll notice we started the year in January with a bang. We did very, very well, and that was when we did our all-island tour. So as we went around the island, our donations went up in January. And then, of course, it slid down in February when we were a bit quieter. We were focused more on our annual general meeting in February, but it was still higher than last year. Then in March, it upticked a little bit in March. And then between March and April, we had some internal challenges where there was an attempted coup to displace me as president. And so we had some really ugly things happening in the public during that time. And so you'll notice our revenues dipped in April when that was going on. But it was still higher than the previous year, which was good. And then in between April and May, you might recall that there was a second attack on my character. There was a big attempt to assassinate my character and there was a campaign to get rid of Joe and stuff like that. Interestingly enough, while that was going on, our revenues went way up back in May because I think those who are watching knew that those character assassination attempts were unwarranted and unfair and unreasonable and actually dishonest. And so people rallied around and supported the movement and gave us the funding we needed in May. Then in June, oh, they're not seeing the chart. My goodness. Here am I talking away. You're not seeing the chart. All right, what do I do? Let's see if this works. Can you see it now? Yeah, I do need.
I think there's a delay. I think there's a delay because somebody said that they're still seeing me on screen. So I think that's what was happening before.
Okay.
When I see the screen.
Yeah, this is really painful. I think we're gonna have to find a new way to do this because it's so hard when we can't actually communicate effectively because the system is just not working. Mr. Harper, if you're out there, can you give us some insight? Okay, so they're still seeing. I mean, there's normally a delay, from our side to it, but it shouldn't be a very lengthy delay. So I'm not sure. Are they not seeing they're not seeing the chart? So they're not seeing what I'm describing here. They're not seeing the chart, Douglas. Okay, not seeing the chart. Okay. All right, what a sad thing, eh? This is so unfortunate because we really want to show you what's going on here, but it's not happening. It's not happening at all. And this is our content. We're not sharing with you anybody else's content. So I don't know why. And this is we're not able to show this. Okay, well, I'll just tell you anyways. What what I was trying to show you was the chart of our revenues to show you how our revenues came in. And so if you can hear me, at least you'll hear what's on the chart. So the chart shows that we have done very well relative to last year, even after it's up now. Okay, so I think whenever you do this, it comes up. Hope you're still seeing it now. Okay, so they're seeing it now. All right, great. So the chart shows you that we have done for every month from January to now, we have done better than the previous year, except in September, where we're slightly below the revenues that came in during September last year when we had the arrest, when I was arrested. So that was a big time, right? A very big moment in the history of Jamaica and the history of the movement. And so you would understand that our revenues would kind of jump up really high during that period last year. But thankfully, we're just slightly below there this year. So we have not dropped too far. We're slightly below there in September. And in October, we are now showing that we're ahead of September number in October. So the UIC is really growing quite well from that perspective. Let's continue now to the next slide. So the next slide is going to show us the number of transactions, if we can get there. Am I going to do it, or will somebody move the slides for me? I didn't want to touch it just in case I mess it up, right? All right, so this slide here shows us, well, there's a comment here. Let me see the comment. It says, Mr. Patterson, local activities promote visibility, drive around and highlight bad governance, such as bad roads, lack of water. Absolutely, N. Smith, and that's why we need the donations to drive around. If we don't have gas in the car and food to feed our volunteers and money to buy printed materials and stuff and all of that, then it's very difficult to drive around. So please, let's help us to get our funding up so we can be more visible. So in this slide, I wanted to show you just the number, how the transaction numbers have been going. So you can see every month of this year, the blue line, the numbers have been greater in donations for each of those months. These are counts now, the number of times people donated. Again, you'll see that it's slightly less in September and is almost on par in the early part here of October. So we have done very well in terms of number of donations, 534 so far. Next slide, please. This one shows the average donation. So if you look at the average donation, it's the amount, the average dollar value that people give us normally. So normally we're getting, in last year, normally the average donation was over 47 Canadian dollars on average per donation. So roughly about, they're seeing the chart on this slide. Okay, so I'm hearing that you might have a problem with the slides. I'm not sure why. What's happening here? In any event, so what this slide shows us is that the average donation has dropped slightly. Yeah, so it has gone down slightly. I can't see the percentage here on screen right now, but slightly dropped, but averages around 4. So all of you out there who are giving online, most times you're giving close to $47 Canadian on average. So thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. Let's see the next slide, please. So this is the overview. So total amount in the online space, what we got through the online portal was about 25,000 Canadian, which is about 2.7 2.8 million Jamaican, or 18,000 US, which is 141% increase over the same period last year online, from a total of 534 donations, which was up 170% over the previous time last year. And of course, the average is up 11%. No, it's down 11% from last year. Next slide, please. So I'm sorry, guys, that the screen is not showing large enough. My apologies. We tried our best on this. We'll try to improve on the next one. So top countries. Most of our donations came from the US. 329 of them came from the US. That's 61.4% of the total. So big up to all of you. In the United States, you are number one in terms of the number of persons who are donating. And then second place, to my surprise, is the United Kingdom, coming in at 81 donations, which accounts for 15.3%. And big up to all of my Jamaican friends right here at Yard. You are third place, 66 donations, 12.5% of the total. Really proud of you, all of you here locally in Jamaica who have decided to step up and donate. You know, you think says is the foreigners, not just kidding. You think says the those in the diaspora who would have, you know, captured all the top spot. But Jamaica is number 3, coming with the bronze. Canada is at number 4 with 42 donations, or 8%. Cayman Islands, big up my friends over there, 10 at 1.9%. Sweden, yes, in Europe, 4 at 0.7%. Japan in Asia, 1 at 0.1%. And Australia, way on the other side of the world, 1 at 0.1%. So a big congratulations and thank you to all of you in these countries who have taken the time and interest to donate to the UIC. Next slide, please. All right, and here we have the split between the returning donors versus new donors. So we had the split is 23% of returning donors account for 23% of the total, while new donors account for 77% of the total. So we keep adding new donors, and that's really good. So thanks to all of you who have done that. Next. And this is just a breakdown between new and returning donors. And the big number here is that we have an increase in total donors of 53%. So if we continue to improve our performance, we'll get even better. Now, I know these are small numbers, guys. They're not big numbers. They're not like the $313 million that the PSOJ gave the other parties. And it's amazing that we're surviving on such little. It reminds me of my mother, you know, when she was this single mother, you know, with 3 children, no husband, no father, and she has her little room and she's taking care of these kids. And it's amazing today, all of her children have turned out so well. She had so little. She washed people's dirty clothes. She used to work in the crash program, you know, sweeping the street. She worked in a factory. She worked at Kentucky. And she raised these amazing kids, sent them to school, made sure they didn't come out as bad as they could have come out. And here we are today. So I'm proud of my little single mother who started with nothing and managed to produce some great outcome in our children. So here we are, small movement, small party, making a tough position that we're not going to the PSOJ for our funding. We're coming to you, the people, so that this is your party, owned by you. And so the numbers are small now, but if we continue to work at it, it's going to become very big. We're going to have 1,000 donors at least in the diaspora, giving us $25 a month each. That's 25,000 US per month as opposed to per year. And we're going to have 250,000 Jamaicans here at home contributing $250 a week. Yeah, $250 a week. Just that small number. Everybody can afford that. So if we all just forego 1/2 half of a box lunch, or maybe that's what, two small juice. Yeah? We just forego 2 small juice for the week, and we can make our contribution to rescue Jamaica. So we're working on it. All right, so that's it pretty much for the presentation here. Thank you very much, Miss Williams. We'll bring you back on screen now, and take some final questions before we go, because we're now over our time by 10 minutes. So anyone have any quick questions or comments? Could you put that on screen for me? Beulah's love the fact. I want to read that. Can't see clearly.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up now. It's on screen. So she said, love the fact that you are transparent. If only the 2 current leaders of Jamaica take the time to provide us with how he spends the taxes that's collected and funds from other entities.
Thank you very much, Beulah. We want to be different. We want to really be the people's party. We don't want to play games with Jamaicans. We just want to get there and fix the problems for our country. And to do that, we have to create an inclusive movement that really includes all Jamaicans, is transparent to all Jamaicans, and is focused on fixing the problems we have here in Jamaica. Next point or question.
This one says, this is from Rain Falling Sounds. Mr. Patterson, how are you going to handle the outside governments who really control Jamaica, like the USA, England, and China?
The truth is, they don't really control Jamaica. They're allowed to control Jamaica. So, I thank God every day for Singapore, because if we didn't have Singapore, people would think that no small country can run themselves properly. So Singapore faced the same challenges we did in the 1960s. It was a colony just like Jamaica. It had less resources than Jamaica. And the difference between Singapore and Jamaica over the last 60 years, if you will, the difference between the 2 countries has been leadership and governance. So we are going to bring leadership and good governance to Jamaica, and that will be able to allow us to manage all of the challenges. Life is full of challenges. We're going to have geopolitical challenges. You're always going to have big countries trying to manipulate little countries. That's a part of life. You're going to have forces from all sides trying to manipulate us. That's fine. What you need is a government that is authentic, that is committed, and that is able to do the right thing for the country. The UIC will do that. The other 2 parties have not done that. They have been given 78 years to do it. And so now we've seen for sure that even if they could do it, we can never trust them again to do it, because they have shown us what they can do and will do if we give them power. 78 years of history is here as proof that no Jamaican with any sense at all should have any confidence in these 2 political parties. So we are going to do it for you with your help. Next question.
All right, I think your mother would have been happy to be on this live, because there are persons actually showing love to your mother, saying that she raised a great leader.
Thank you. I mean, her name is Miss Ruth. She has been, I can't tell you how much I love my mother. I mean, when I see what she has done for me, she has never allowed any of her children to suffer. She tries, we lived in one room, 12 by 12, and she did everything possible to provide for us as best as she could. She would do anything at all to put food on the table, anything to put clothes on our backs, anything to make sure we get an education. And, you can't have a better mother than that. She was just absolutely the most magnificent person. And the truth is, she only finished I think she got only to about the 9th or the 10th grade. But she was really awesome. I love her dearly, and she's the best thing that ever happened to me. Only my wife can compete.
Yeah,
All right, next.
I think that's it for questions. There are persons suggesting printing bumper stickers as part of promoting the UIC.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have a team right now, the advertising team, led by people like what's his name, Lion Rule the Jungle. He's there. You know, West is big on these things, and he's working on it together with John and Elsa. You know, Emma, Miss Douglas, Shirley Douglas, Sonia Mignot.
Yes.
You know, Christine Simpson Mensah. There's just a powerful team working behind the scene right now, and they are raising money as best as they can, and they're really on top of this. So you're going to see bumper stickers, you're going to see all kind of things coming out. But really, all of us, though, we have to get together and donate. I can't say it enough. If I'm begging all of my Jamaican people right here in Jamaica, if nothing else, just give the $250 a week. It's only $250 a week. Don't tell me say you're too poor, because if you don't get out these two parties, they're going to be poorer. And if you're not poor, the longer you keep these two parties, you will become poor. You understand? They're going to cause you to be afraid to step out of your house at night. They're going to cause you to have Jamaica be taken over by foreigners owning everything, and we don't own nothing. You understand? They're going to continue to kill local jobs and local businesses and cause foreigners to take over all of our industries. So no matter what your status in life is, you might be okay now, you might feel you're in charge of things and you're okay. No, you cannot trust these two parties. They will sell you on a dime. They will sell you to anybody at any time for any price. So you can't afford to sit down and feel comfortable. We have to get together and we have to push them out and take back our country and fix it right now. Yes, any other comments? Mr. Winston Hammond is saying, how can I meet you if and when I am in Jamaica?
I was just about to read that one.
Winston, just try it. You know, call the number. Call the number. Hey, we didn't take any calls tonight, did we? That's bad of me. I'm so sorry. We must take at least one call. Let's see if anybody wants to call in. But this is a number, Winston. Just WhatsApp that number. Let us know when you're on the island, and we'll try to get together if at all possible. Can't promise you, because I get too many requests and I have too little time in the day. But we'll try. Who else do we have? What else do we have? Any other comments or questions? Okay. Kick Rock is saying he will commit to $10,000 as well. Thank you very much, Kick Rock.
Yeah, he's the second person. Patriotic Vibes is the first person.
Oh, I missed that. All right. Patriotic Vibes, thank you for committing to $10,000. Much appreciated. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Who else do we have, Malika? Anybody else? Oh, all right. Thank you for that, Mr. Harper, working hard in the background. Mr. Harper says, I should not come off the program unless I ask you guys to rate the program. So while we're waiting for any last minute calls, please go ahead and rate the program. Is it a, no, we're not doing 10 out of 10 anymore. We're doing 100 now. So it's 100. You know, no, Kik is saying, please don't disappoint us, Mr. P. I can tell you this. I have not 1 ounce of disappointment in my body to give. If you ever know the price I'm paying to make this happen, I can't afford to disappoint myself, much more you. So no disappointment here. So if you thought tonight's program was, no, you say it, Miss Williams. I'm going to let you have the honor of doing the ratings tonight.
Okay. So if you thought tonight's program was a good one or an excellent one, based on your ratings, you can just send it in the chat group, in the chat section.
We'll have to say 100, right? Excellent is 100. Yeah. 0
is bad. 50.
Yeah, zero is worse than bad. But anyways, yeah. And 50 is.
Yeah, 25 would be satisfactory. 50 would be good. 75.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. 25. How you put in the bar so low, Miss Williams?
Satisfactory.
25. No. you know that back in the good old days, 50, 50, 50 is the minimum pass mark. 50. If you get 50 out of 100, that's the minimum, right? So anything less than 50, I fail. 50 mean you barely make it. You barely make it if it's 50. And then now over that, now you're going somewhere. And for me, I want nothing less than 90 and over when I do an exam. 90 and over.
Okay, so can we say 75 would mean we need improvement then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you all so very much for the scoring. Trevor Hines says excellent. Christine Simpson is laughing her head off. Randall Williams says no worries. And Jamaica is depending on you, sir, says Wayne Noble. Yeah, man, depending on all of us. We're in this together, all of it together. And my good friend, Eileen Besley Anderson, hope I pronounced your last name properly, my dear, says 100%. So thank you all so very much.
You should be worried
I'm
about
looking
your
forward to
first
serving you. Say that again, Naika.
I'm saying for Mrs. Anderson, you should be worried about her first name.
Or first name, yes. Is it
Well,
Eileen? Eileen,
it's
right?
Eileen. Eileen.
It's Eileen. Okay, Eileen. Eileen, wonderful. Eileen, thank you. Yeah, man, we're going to really change Jamaica. We have such a, I was going to say a perfect plan, but I guess no plan is perfect. But when you think about what we're going to do, I mean, we have a system. What separates the UIC? They can't copy this, and they can talk, but none of the two parties can copy our system. You know why they can't copy our system? Because our system gets rid of partisan politics. My wife and I were talking today. We're just sitting in the sofa having lunch. She made me a lovely lunch today. It was really, thank you very much, Mrs. Patterson. She takes such good care of me. I don't know what I would have done without her. Now, we just had lunch today after a long day out on the road. And we're talking. And she was asking me, what was the question? She asked me a question. But it led to me explaining to her how they destroyed us as a people. In 1962, right? Well, sorry, in the 1930s, if you were to look at the Jamaican people in the 1930s, we're very different people from we are today. Back then, all the way up to the early 60s, even with the intervention of the colonial masters in that 18 years, we were very, very respectful to our elders. We were family oriented, strong family values. We were very caring and community oriented. We were voluntary, we volunteered, so we were volunteer oriented. Very clean. We really believed in being clean, and we had pride, lots of pride. Now, she asked me what happened. My wife and I were chatting, because we talk all the time like this. She asked me, what's your theory as to what happened? What brought us to such a low level today? Our social fabric is gone. Our ethics, our morals, everything is gone. I explained to her, before they gave us the right to vote in 1944, before we got what was called universal adult suffrage, which means one man, one vote. Prior to that, we couldn't vote because we don't have no property. So we learned to rely on each other. We had no government programs. There were no social programs, no handouts, no nothing. We were just there, we versus the colonial masters who was running the country. And so we were really bonded together because we believed in each other. We depended on each other. We trusted each other. We believed in family and community because that's all we had. Now, what the colonial masters did, they tricked us. They got us to now start breaking the two tribes and parties. And you would not believe what a big impact that has had on us. When they got us to break into two parties, we stopped seeing each other as people to love and care for and work together with, but as enemies. And we're now fighting for access to government in order to get, power and to get the benefits of being connected. And so over the years, that tribal warfare has really deteriorated us as a people. tremendously as a people, especially because we weren't very educated back then. Remember, most of us couldn't read or write. So our understanding of politics was quite twisted. And so as that worked its way throughout us culturally, it turned us into what we have today, because the leaders we had back then, they now were teaching us to be corrupt. They also taught us to hate each other. They gave us guns. They really changed our mindset and turned us into monsters. And that's the monstrosity you're seeing today coming out in us. And it's getting more and more vile and vile and vile. So we really have to stop this. And the sooner we can break this chain and put in the UIC system to do that, which is to make Jamaica a non-partisan constitutional republic that really changes our outlook, our political process, change from the big money buying the people to the people now being forced by the design to look at content and to engage and to reason and to look at candidates as community persons representing us. The whole tenure of Jamaica is going to change. We're going to bring out a very, very different country. So the UIC is truly the answer to years and years of denigration, destruction, moral decay. We just have to do this if we're going to rebuild our country. Anyway, final comments. What did I miss in the comment section before we close off? We have 4 minutes to go. 4 minutes.
Okay. I think I saw one since someone was saying they remember this event like it's yesterday.
Yes. And in the 1980s, yes, in the 1980s, I mean, it's like more than 800 Jamaicans were murdered because of this political thing that they have. And that's only the 800 that we found. There are many persons who were buried who we have never found. So we don't know the true number, but we know about 800 for sure that were murdered because of this system. So we're going to change this by changing the system. When you change the system, you change people's behavior and you start to remap the culture. So what I was explaining to her, she was saying, did the Singapore people already have a cultural bias that made it easier for them to be what they are? And I explained to her, no. I walked her through some of the history of Singapore to show her how horrible the culture was of the Singaporean people, and how, because of Lee Kuan Yew and his great leadership and the team that he had, how they changed the system of Singapore and changed the culture. Now Singapore, the people hate corruption. If you go there and try to do corruption, the very people you're talking to will turn you in, because they're opposed to corruption. It's not in their culture to be corrupt. They're anti. You can go to Singapore, for example, on a holiday and sit down at the waterfront with your handbag on the side of the bench and accidentally get up and leave your bag and jump on a bus and remember it when you go way down the road and turn back. You're going to come and find your bag still there. Not in Jamaica, not on your life. But in Singapore, that's some of the examples of how the culture has been transformed by leadership and good governance. Yeah. All right. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. See you tomorrow. Maybe not me, but somebody else from the team will be there tomorrow. I think it's Chase tomorrow, right?
That's right.
Chase tomorrow? All right. So tomorrow night is Chase. Mr. Douglas says, yes, Mr. Patterson, some people think that because Singapore didn't go through slavery, we can't compare ourselves with them. We're not this way because of slavery, by the way. Slavery does have an impact on you. But if you look at the culture of Jamaica in the 1940s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you would have seen that we're nothing like what we are today. This is the worst of Jamaica's culture. This is the worst. What you're seeing now is the worst of our culture. So it means culture evolves. And so our culture is where it is today because of 78 years of our leaders and the system that they have employed. So as long as you have bad leaders employing bad systems, you will have an evolution to a very dark and bad culture. So now we're going to reverse that with good leadership, solid systems, and emerge into a better culture that is beautiful and prosperous. And on that note, Good night. See you tomorrow. Take care. All the best. One
Good night.
Jamaica,
Stronger
stronger
together.
together. Take care. All the best, everyone. See you soon.